Hi, AJ Hartley here, novelist, Shakespeare professor, Atarashii Gakko fan, and we have a new song, so it's a good day. We knew this was coming. The song itself was already out on Spotify. It's called Maningen, which means good person, good citizen, and it's a song about what's wrong with the world and how we should fix it, or how Atarashii Gakko should fix it. Let's check it out.
人間いつになったら変わんだ暴いて殴ってそう引きずり出してやる
Okay, I love this, man. I've loved the recent Atarashii Gakko sound, but this from the last EP and this sort of switch back to something that more in keeping with their original sound off the first couple of albums, I really love. It's got that jazz, swing, showa. There's pop there, but there's so much more musical range, I think, built into the sound that I love. And right from the start, I think you hear that this is a much more string-driven song. You know, they were doing so much of the electronica stuff, and now we're hearing mostly guitars, and there's a brass section as well comes in. I love the sort of the setup here. This is clearly an anthem. It's reminiscent of 999 or something like that. It's a song about what's wrong with the world in fairly unspecific terms, but it sets it up really powerfully and personally. And we'll talk about the statue in a second. Man, you hear those guitars, especially when we go into that double time section there. I love this. And the dance poses that they're using move from that sort of mechanistic, sort of Martha Graham-y kind of look initially in the outside section to something more clearly inspired by statuary, Buddhist statuary, I think, that we're seeing in those sort of elevated hand gestures. And it's a song about what's wrong with humanity, right? And trying to figure out the baseline of evil. I was going to do a translation, but since this video has very conveniently included an English translation, I don't need to bother with that. And it's a more readable, better translation than I think most Japanese music videos. So again, I think, as I've said before, the more attentive to their footprint outside Japan, even as they have gone back to a very Japanese sound and look. And obviously the use of these Japanese Buddhist images, I think, is, very sort of nationally centered. So that's interesting of itself. But the song is about exploring the root of evil and what's wrong with the world in a way that suggests that people mostly have it wrong. And this is where I think we get to these statue images, which are all over the video, of course. The big statue that you see them standing in at the beginning is the Tokyo wa Kanon, which is in Chiba Prefecture. It was built, I think, in like 1961 as one of these sort of monuments to world peace. Kanon, who of course is the name of one of the girls in the band, the one with the long hair in the bottom left there, is the name of one of the Buddhist deities, for want of a better word, a goddess associated with mercy and compassion and peace. So the whole song is striving for that, I think, but also is critical of some of the things that people have adopted in place of it. Just listen to a bit more. I hate to stop it, but if I don't, it's going to get blocked for copyright. And there's so much to get into. This question of this sort of the sea of lies, the idea of something, a truth that has been subsumed within fiction, within conventional ideas that we're trying to somehow get back to. And you know, the song is never explicit about what that is, right? Because it's an anthem and it's asking you to sort of put your own version of what constitutes goodness into your vision of the world. But I think with these images of peace and so on around, there's an implication that what we're striving for is a form of active goodness, but not one which suppresses the individual, right? This is a very Atarashii Gakko idea. And as I said, we see it in 999 and other songs where they're positioning themselves against a conformist society. And I'm trying to decide if I think that their version of Buddhism is in part a pushback against the way that Buddhism has sometimes been used in Japan to enforce a kind of conformity and to create social problems of its own, right? Like most religions, all religions, at some point get co-opted by governments and social systems as a way of making money for people or privileging certain ideas. You know, the history of Buddhism in Japan is complicated in that respect because while it has been a sort of force for inner peace and self-validation, it has also at times been exploited. Tokugawa shogunate exploited it during the Edo period to make money. It was a source of nationalism and militarism during the Second World War. And so, I think that there's a part of what the song is doing is attempting to reclaim ideas about personal spirituality, which also don't suppress the individual. That's what I think. I'm open to challenges or suggestions on this, but that's what I'm getting. That's such a Suzuka pose, right? That hand outstretched, pulling you in kind of thing. I think it's become her signature move. And while I'm sort of waxing lyrical about complicated ideas of Buddhism and stuff, the point is, of course, this is just a banger of a song and a great performance and so much fun and energy. And I think part of what this sort of, if we're reconstituting a Buddhist notion of goodness, part of it is the song is about aggression. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's about trying to do something active and positive to break down the sort of passive constructions within which people usually live their lives, right? Where you get used to an accepted notion of what is normal, what is appropriate. The song is called Maningen, that means sort of a good citizen, a good person. And I think in some ways the song is both claiming that, but also challenging it, that what we consider to be a good person is often merely a nice person, somebody who's able to sort of get along in the social world, but isn't actively a good person. Or that we substitute a kind of normalcy for goodness, for character, and so the good person becomes the one who doesn't rock the boat. A very Japanese idea, I think. The good person is somebody who does what is expected of them. And that's not Atarashii Gakko, right? A lot of what they're about is standing out as a way of sort of reclaiming a sense of self and youthful energy. They're not claiming Buddhist status themselves, of course. I think what they're doing is using the iconography of Buddhism to try to sort of position themselves as a way of saying you can be unconventional, dynamic, energetic, and good and positive, right? In ways that break down the tedious ordinariness that we get used to as a mark of social acceptability. That's what I think is going on. pause there for a second. That's what I mean about the way that they use those different images from Buddhism as if they are becoming the voice of this, right? That they're associating themselves with that. But what they're doing in lyrically is saying, we want to sort of hear oppressed or marginalized voices. We want to celebrate that. We want to lift people out of the kind of depression and helplessness that we have felt ourselves. That this is an active good rather than a baseline normalcy, which appears to be good because it's simply ordinary. I love that key shift, right? And that we go into that sort of telephone voice sound, which is a little bit distorted. But again, what the lyrical content is saying is that, there was something good here, but it's become jaded and predictable and ordinary, and we need to sort of escape that, right? This business about losing all interest. And what was the previous line? Hiding and deflecting. Right, that sense of that again, whether we're talking about religion or good social conduct generally, it becomes something that is designed to keep the wheels of society turning, rather than to do something actively good. Right, and so hiding and deflecting becomes something that is considered to be normal and considered to be acceptable. Ignoring things that are inconvenient, ignoring people who are inconvenient, and that's clearly what we want to get away from. I just, when we switch back into the main key and we hit the full sort of sound, the full volume, and it gets that jolt of energy that lifts the song back up. I love this. I think this is a great song. I think that the combination of the energy and the fun that they've had over the last few years, reconnecting with that sort of musical complexity, the sort of the textured nature of that sound that I think comes in part from the jazz. The jazz gives you more ranges, more colors than that sort of plain electronica can. And I think what we're getting as a result is really good. I love that. Right? The final images of them composing themselves around the statue as if touching it in that sort of classic tourist pose, but also doing so in this sort of affectionate way. And then Miju's bow at the end, and the head tilt, that it's a bow of respect, but also of questioning. Maybe. Well, I don't know. I'm just talking. And again, even the choreography emphasizes the guitar. Love it. Yeah. I think that this is a sort of challenge to conventional ideas of goodness and socially appropriate behavior. I think that's what this is. And in a sense, they are sort of adopting some of these ideas from Buddhism, and themselves putting themselves into that position and challenging the social order, which is what their job is, right? But again, I also, I don't want to overstate this, because the song is pretty unspecific about what everybody is doing wrong, except that sense of the boring ordinariness that we take as being somehow morally a good thing of itself. And that's what they're against. And that, again, is all over some of their other songs. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say. Great song, man. Great song. Okay, that's it. As ever, please like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks. I'm really, really excited about this new direction that they're going in. I think it's wonderful. So yeah, tell me what you think. If you haven't already done so, please check out my new book, Hideki Smith Demon Queller, which is not technically out for another week, but in a lot of places it's already out. It's up on Amazon already, and you can get it now, even if you have to pre-order. But yeah, it's available now. Check out my Patreon page, check out my merchandise store, and I will talk to you soon. All right, thanks.